There's a basketball channel out there called JxmyHighroller. Does great like basketball documentaries, sort of like quick 10-15 minute documentaries. There's some that are longer, but does great NBA content. But it looks like he released a new video, and I'm going to go check that out. So, because I'm kind of in the NBA mood, reacting to Charles Barkley, let's get it going. All right, let's take a look at some of these. Michael Jordan was carried by the Bulls. That is false. Kobe is overrated. MJ, we guess. Those takes are bad. Wow. Michael Jordan, man. Well, I mean, it's titled correctly.
The good old hot take. The necessary evil of the sports world. Through the good ones, the bad ones, and the downright atrocious ones. We once again find ourselves racking our brains, trying to figure out how some people come up with this nonsense. But today, I've done the brain racking for you, and found some of the hottest NBA takes on the internet. So,
Sweet.
Buckle up. This may be a bumpy ride.
This is going to be painful.
Today's video is brought to you by DraftKings. Brothers, it's that time of year. The NFL is back, and if seeing grown men absolutely obliterate each other for 3 hours at a time wasn't good enough, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports
I use FanDuel, but DraftKings is alright.
Customers an offer you just
They offer some decent deals.
Bet $5 on any NFL wager, and you will instantly receive $200 in free bets. Yes, your eyes and
I always
ears do
lose
not
money on the
deceive
NBA,
you.
though.
DraftKings is giving all new customers $200 in free bets when they place any $5 wager on the football team of their choosing. The team you choose doesn't even have to win the game. You literally win just by placing the
See,
bet.
they do stuff like
That's
this all
it.
the time.
Plus,
So,
with same-game
if you're ever
parlays,
interested in
you can
sports
combine
gambling, try
multiple
one of
bets from
those
same
sites. Yeah.
game to give yourself a shot at even bigger winnings all season long. And for those in a state where sports betting is not available, you can still get in on the action with DraftKings.
Still have free
Fantasy.
available
Just
as well.
download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Be sure to use code JxmyHighroller, and new customers will receive $200 in free bets when placing a $5 wager. That's promo code JxmyHighroller only at DraftKings Sportsbook. With the NBA offseason creeping along, I did my reluctant but mandatory scrub through NBA social media in search for a new batch of hot takes. And to no surprise, what I found was downright appalling. Now, I'm no expert or anything.
Oh, that one. I read that one, and I almost lost my mind.
But some of y'all should seriously have your accounts deactivated for the
Where is this stuff coming from?
absolute tomfoolery y'all are posting on these pages. And after sifting through hundreds of takes, here's some of the best and worst that I came across. Now, this first take is from a fan who says that...
Okay. Every NBA player is athletic, even the non-athletic players. Guys like Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic are these examples of non-athletic. Non-athletic, huh? Have you seen Stephen Curry run through screens? Oh my goodness. And Luka Doncic is unguardable. Alright, destroy him, Jimmy.
You need to be athletic to play in the NBA, and I cannot agree more with this take. Now, some of you are probably thinking, of course you have to be athletic to be a professional athlete, Einstein, but people will often use players like Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, Duncan Robinson, and Kyle Anderson to prove the point that skill and size alone can earn you a spot in the NBA. And I think the key here is relativity. Sure, relative to other NBA players, these guys are not very athletic. But that's because their peers are some of the best athletes in the world. Compared to normal people, even the most unathletic NBA players are amazing athletes. For example, the average man has a vertical leap of about 17 inches. Duncan Robinson, the three-point specialist who doesn't dare take a step inside the paint, has a 33-inch max vert. That's double the average Joe. Luka Doncic, the guy who kills defenses with his craftiness, not his athleticism, has a 38-inch max vert. And Stephen Curry, the poster child for what you can accomplish in sports without being an incredible athlete, has a 36-inch vertical.
Stephen Curry is an incredible athlete.
Seemingly unathletic NBA players are still top-tier athletes. It's just that when they're surrounded by giant superhumans, they tend to look a bit ordinary. But the other aspect of this that no one really talks about is that athleticism goes far beyond jumping high and running fast. Hand-eye coordination, spatial awareness,
so
agility,
much stuff.
These are all crucial elements of being a great athlete. For example, take Trae Young. Doesn't really fit the bill for a typical super athlete in terms of explosiveness, but his dexterity, coordination, stamina, mobility, and many other components of his game make him tremendously athletic. So, yes, you do in fact need to be a good athlete to play in the NBA. And even the most mundane players in the league are super athletes relative to the rest of us. Now this next take actually comes from an NBA player. And as crazy as it sounds, it's actually not too far from the truth. Last season, Karl Anthony Towns came out and said that he is the greatest big man shooter of all time. Fact. And immediately, fans were not happy about this. I mean, with big men like Dirk Nowitzki, Peja Stojakovic, and DeMarcus Cousins, Cat still has a lot of work to do to earn the title of greatest shooting big man ever. Right? Let's look at the numbers. Here's a chart of some of the most prolific big man shooters in NBA history. And amongst some of the greatest big man shooters the game has ever seen, it appears that Al Horford, Chris Bosh, and Dirk Nowitzki are the best of the best. And then there's Matt Bonner, who lives in his own stratosphere. Karl Anthony Towns falls right here. So he's certainly one of the best big man shooters, but he's not number one. But this graph only covers mid-range shots. What about three-pointers? Well, that chart would look like this. And aside from Davis Bertans, who gets paid $16 million a year to literally stand on the three-point line for 20 minutes a game, the best big men three-point shooters of all time include Ryan Anderson, Peja Stojakovic, and Matt Bonner. Karl Anthony Towns is right here. One of the best all time, but not the best. Now this fan, like many others I've seen, says that Kyrie Irving is better than Stephen Curry at virtually every aspect of basketball other than shooting. Therefore, he's a better player than Steph is. First of all, no. Second,
stop it.
This logic seems to make sense. If player A is better at most things compared to player B, then player A, by default, must be the better player.
This is a little Brown Michael argument.
Side-by-side comparisons almost always lack one thing: context. For example, take these two players. Player A is better at nearly everything compared to player B. Passing, playmaking, rebounding, defending, finishing. Player A can do it all. So, according to the logic used in these comparisons, we must assume player A is much better than player B. Except player A is Ben Simmons, and player B is first-team All-NBA Devin Booker. Similar to the Kyrie versus Steph comparison, using extremely general categories.
This is still to be determined, in my opinion.
Context is a recipe for disaster. Basketball has a lot of nuance. It's dependent on situations, circumstances,
if we could ever see Ben
and
Simmons
systems,
play,
all of which give context to a player's impact and ability. As incredible as Kyrie's handles are, they aren't nearly as impactful as Steph's ability to space the floor with his shooting. In fact, if history tells us anything, it's that being extremely good at a few things can often be far more valuable than being good at everything. If you took
last time I checked, 3 was better than 2.
Aside from just his shooting ability and high basketball IQ, he would still be a Hall of Fame talent. But if you took away Ben Simmons' passing ability, he'd be a 6'10" Patrick Beverley. These two aspects of the game hold different values to different players. So to compare them side by side like they are equivalents doesn't accurately determine anything. At most, these kinds of comparisons might help you decide who's the better all-around player, but if being good, not great, at most things on the court determine who is the best player, then Draymond Green would be a 4-time Finals MVP right now. But he's not. Now this next take is one of the more interesting takes I've heard recently. This NBA fan says that the top 8 players in the league going into this season are the best top 8 players the league has ever had at any given time, making this era the best era in NBA history.
Alright, my thoughts on that? You really can't compare the generations. Different rule structures, different builds of players, different styles. The three-point shot, I mean, I hate these arguments of, oh, hey, this generation is so much better than this generation. You can't compare them. The game's changed so much, you just can't compare them. But we'll get back into it.
Top 8 players being LeBron, Durant, Giannis, Kawhi, Steph, Jokic, Luka, and Embiid. And I gotta say, that is one hell of a top 8. Every one of these players, aside from Luka and Embiid, either has an MVP or a Finals MVP. I'd say out of the top 8, you've got roughly
It's a fair
5 top
list.
30
I mean, I'm
players of all
not...
time. Without a doubt, this is one of the most talented and accomplished group of players in NBA history. But is it really the best? Well, there's definitely been worse years in the NBA, like throughout the 70s and early 2010s, where maybe 3 or 4 players were head and shoulders above everyone else. But there's also been years where the league has featured a large group of some of the greatest players all in one season. Like in 1996, when the top 8 players in the league consisted of Michael Jordan, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, Gary Payton, Hakeem Olajuwon, John Stockton, and Karl Malone. This is a stacked group of 8.
Look at that list.
Exciting eras in NBA basketball. But I think we can do better. What about the 2003 NBA season, when the top 8 players in the league were Shaq, Kobe, Duncan, Garnett, McGrady, Dirk, Iverson, and Jason Kidd? This group contains 3 top 10 players in league history and 2 more players who are generally considered top 20
Just
all
nasty.
time. But I still think there's one NBA season that tops this one in terms of all-time talent.
What you got?
Back in 1988,
Oh, yeah.
the league was shifting from one era to the next. And within these 2 clashing generations,
I knew it had to be
basketball,
around this time.
is what I believe to be the most loaded group of players the league has ever seen. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Karl Malone, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon, Moses Malone, Isaiah Thomas, and Charles
Can't even
Barkley.
pick...
That's 9 players. All of them generally considered top
You really can't
25
even pick
greatest
10.
to ever play the game.
Or top
in
8.
the
You can't
league,
even pick top
all
8.
in the same season. And outside of an aging Kareem, every single one of these players was in their prime in 1988. That's 5 consensus top 10 players of all time playing in the same season. Now, if we compare these 2 groups of players, I honestly think it's not even close. But only for the simple fact that the 2022 group has
But
a
look at
handful
what
of
you
young
got on the
players who
left-hand
still have
side.
a
I
lot
mean...
of time left to add to their resume. And I do think that this 2022 group does have the potential to be the greatest collection of players in one season. Only time will tell how this group will pan out. Ask again in about 10 years, and we'll have an answer for you. But for now,
Ooh, that
1988
pass.
remains by far the most loaded year in NBA history. Now, our last take for this video has virtually become a matter of fact over the years, but I'd like to make the case against it. This fan asked the question, when it's all said and done, which LeBron-led super team will be viewed as his
Miami.
best? Which means by default, he believes LeBron has been on multiple super teams. And as popular as this take is, it's not a good one. LeBron has really only been a part of one super team, and that was the Miami Heat. The Cavaliers from 2014 through
That's why I had no
2017
hesitation there.
were not a super
No.
team. And if you even say super team and 2022 Lakers in the same sentence, you're a sick individual. When the Cavs assembled
He's
their big
spot
three,
on with
the
that.
potential of this team
He
and
is spot on with that comment. The 2022 Lakers are going to be a disaster. I mean, it's all set up to be a disaster, in my opinion. But, I mean, we'll see what happens.
the perception of this team far exceeded their actual ability. By the time this Cavs team won a title, they had one superstar, one all-star.
They really should not have
one
beaten the
fringe
Warriors that
all-star
year.
player. If this is the
That was
criteria
mainly
for a
LeBron
super
just
team,
being like,
then
nope,
that would mean that
I'm
the
winning.
2021 Jazz were a super team. The 2021 Nets were a super team. The 2021 Bucks were a super team. So were the 2022 Warriors, the 2022 Celtics, the 2022 Suns, the 2021
Yeah, if you have three good
76ers,
players, all of a
and the
sudden you're a
list keeps
super team. That
going
doesn't
and
make any
going and
sense.
going. In fact, if we just take the box plus minus of the Cavs' big three and compare it to teams over the last few seasons, you can see that they were good, but far from some all-time super team. You'd never look at Embiid, Simmons, and
Look at that
Tobias
Rockets
Harris and call
scoring
them a super
team.
You'd never look at Kawhi, Paul George, and Montrezl Harrell and call them a super team. You'd never look at Giannis, Middleton, and Drew
Problem was that
Holiday
Rockets
and call
team didn't
them a
really play
super team.
defense.
And yet, the combination of LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love were on this level by the time they won a title together. And if you even consider the 2022 Lakers with LeBron, Westbrook, and AD as a super team, just stop. We know what you're doing. LeBron
That's
has played
painful
on a
to
handful
see.
of good teams throughout his career. Some of them were great, but he's only been a part of one super team. And unfortunately, that's all the racking my brain can handle in one sitting.
Fair.
Make sure to leave your NBA hot takes in the comments below. Of course, the hotter, the better. Hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time.
Great video. This dude makes, like I said, this dude makes the best NBA content. So check out his videos, please. Please check out his videos.